Welcome to the Great British Crochet Off technical version, where I chat through the technical aspects of this week's episode of the Great British Crochet Off, a series where every single week I watch that week's episode of the Great British Bake Off and then crochet something that inspires me from it. This week I took the Paris Brest and turned it into a cute little candy and macaroon and biscuit coated Christmas wreath. If you missed this week's episode, you can check it out on my page. In the meantime, let's go back in time and see how we got here. So Pastry Week finished moments ago, and now it's time to start thinking about what we're going to make. And what I'm going to make is a Paris Brest wreath. I'm going to do it out of this Big Twist Posh yarn. So this is a thicker style yarn. I'm gonna do the base wreath, the Paris Brest itself, out of this yarn, and then I'm probably gonna do all the decoration for it out of my standard acrylic because I can get more detail out of that. But I really want it to be kind of like whimsical, and I think that this, making it out of a fluffier yarn, is gonna help with some of the whimsy. So this is gonna be the color for the base. We're gonna do a pink filling. And then I'm going to do as many toppings as I can, but I want to make them very whimsical and like sugary sweet, pink, light purple kind of vibe. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling very like sugar plum fairy. Yes, there it is, sugar plum fairy. So I'm going to get started with making our wreath. So this is my base completed, and I'll put the little pattern for it up here. Basically, I just made the circle, and then I worked slowly increasing circles out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of a lip on it in my like actual pastry color. I kind of wanted it to look like it had a nice non-soggy bottom, so I used the darker brown for the bottom that I'm going to use for the rest of it. So I'm going to make a little wall on the outside and a little wall on the inside. Because I'm going to do the top and the bottom as two completely separate pieces. So let's do the little walls now. So I did my walls on what is basically my chip and dip dish thus far. And I'll put the outer wall pattern here and the inner wall pattern here. I basically just built these up a little bit. And then this morning I also made my top, which will look much better when there's stuff on top of it and filling inside of it. And I'll put the pattern here. I basically started with the outer edge, worked my way in, and then worked my way down just a little bit. Again, this is gonna look so much better when there's like a little whipped cream peeping out. Speaking of which, actually, before I go into the whipped cream, what I also did in this is I put in these random puff stitches, and they're not even full puff stitches. I basically just made like little half puffs because I didn't want this to be a totally flat, even surface, because what kind of pastry is a totally flat, even surface like that? So yeah, I put in some random little puff stitches just to give it a little bit of extra texture. I did that all along the sides and the top. But anyways, so this was my test piece for my whipped cream. I started by doing double crochets, and then I moved at the end here to trebles, and I'm much happier with those. They have a much more softer whipped cream, whipped filling look. So all I'm doing is I made a chain, and then I put 2 treble stitches into every single stitch, and it's just naturally kind of ruffling up. So I'm going to make a bunch of longer strips of this, and then so those will go, they'll get all ruffled up, and then they'll be put here, and that'll be, like I said, kind of peeping around the edge. So yeah, I'm going to make a bunch of pink whipped cream now. So I made a lot of things to top our little Paris Brest wreath with. So let's chat through all of them and where you'll be able to find the patterns for these. This is my classic little mini heart pattern. You can find a tutorial for this already on my page. If you need help finding it, let me know and I can repost it. Super cute. They come together really quickly. This gingerbread man I'm actually going to release as part of my 12 days of ornaments that I'm planning out right now. So stay tuned for this, probably in November sometime. I love this. I want to make many more and decorate them in lots of different ways. This little candy bonbon, and I have a couple of different varieties. So one of them I put one of my hearts on. This one's like a little peppermint swirl, and then I did just a plain yellow one. I'm also going to release these as part of my 12 days of ornaments, so stay tuned for the patterns for these. When I finished making all the whipped cream for the sides, I made some of these little whipped cream blobs. So for the ones for the sides, it was about 300 chains worth for the sides. I think it'll be enough. For these, I chained 20. and then I put 2 treble crochets into each stitch, and it kind of curls up on its own. So I'm going to sew this onto the top as like little puffs of the cream filling. And I did this in white and pink. And then another one of my new favorite things, I made up this little macaron pattern. I will release this sometime very, very soon. I want to fine tune it a little bit, but look for this either as part of my 12 days of ornaments or sometime before then. It'll be very soon. And I did them in 3 different colors. I think these would be so cute as like keychains or as part of a little like toy tea set or something. Yeah, they make me really happy. So now it is Friday morning. It's time to start attaching all of this stuff to the top here. I'm just going to slowly build it up, starting with the cream puffs. So here is the layout of it before I sew all the major pieces down. And I'm just recording it so I can remember where I put everything before I start to sew them down. So I sewed down all of my little whipped cream blobs, and now I've gotten out my glue gun, because if you didn't see a glue gun coming, then you have not been here with me for very long. Love a glue gun for attaching details like this, because I want to be able to place them wherever I want and not to worry about sewing them down specifically. So now I'm going to attach gingerbread man and all the candies and cookies onto the wreath with some hot glue. So all pieces are glued on, and now before I close it up, or I work on trying to close it up, I am gonna see what it would like if I put some of these more iridescent beads on it, like little sprinkles. So let's see what happens. So here we are after a few minutes of beading. I think it's really cute. I think it adds a nice finished, polished look. I'm also using the thread to kind of shore up some of these connections so that when this is put together and stuffed, all these pieces won't like flay apart. So this is probably going to be at least an hour or 2 of work, so I better keep going. So I finally finished hand beading all these little seed beads into it, just to give it a little glow, a little sparkle. So now I need to start actually putting it together. So all I'm doing is I'm taking my base color and I am lining up my little whipped cream topping in different angles, in different like ruffly patterns, sticking out a little bit more in some places than others, and just sewing up and down and up and down and through it. And then after I've done the outside part, I'm gonna fill it with polyfill, and then I'll do the inside circle to close it up. What a silly thing to have made, but how cute. So I still need to put some kind of hanger on it so it can hang. I think I'm going to put it on my girl's door for Christmas. But I finished sewing up the sides, and look at that. No soggy bottoms here. And I sewed up the middle. And I ended up having a whole thing of the like filling that I made left over. So I basically only used like 200 chains worth of the pink filling, if that's something you were curious about. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next week for fall week.